Let's build a $1,500 all-white PC build, in this case from ASUS, that has handles on the top. And before we start, all the parts for this build are going to be linked in the description section of this video, and I'll also have some other recommendations to swap out a few of the parts. So if you want to build a similar PC, you can easily get an idea of other parts to use to swap out. And the great thing about PC building is that it's highly customizable. This case from ASUS, the Tough Gaming GT502, has 10 fan mounts at the main compartment of the case. That's 3 120mm fans that you can install at the bottom, another 3 at the top, and another 3 at the side, and then 1 at the back of the case. On the other compartment of the case, you can also fit 3 more 120mm fans, so that's 13 in total in this case. Like I mentioned before, there are handles at the top, so you can easily move this PC around. You can bring it to a friend's house. I've even seen people hang it underneath their desk by using the handles, which is really cool. It supports ATX motherboards, 3 360mm radiators. You could probably manage to fit 4 if you go with a slightly smaller motherboard, the 4th one being at the bottom. Great I/O selection at the front, and the other side has many mounts for 3.5-inch hard drives as well as 2.5-inch SSDs. I really like this all-white design, and you get plenty of tempered glass too. So for the motherboard with this case, we're gonna go with the ASUS ROG Strix B760A. This supports 13th gen Intel Core CPUs, DDR4 RAM, and also has white heatsinks, which is going to look great in this build. And we cannot forget to mention the Q release button for the top PCIe slot, as well as support for 3 M.2 slots, which is more than enough for most people. In terms of the CPU for this build, I'm going to go with the Intel Core i5-13600K. It's a really great mid-range CPU, and I made another YouTube video going a little bit more in-depth in this thing, which I will link in the description. To keep the CPU running cool, we're going to go with the NZXT Kraken Z63 RGB. It's a 280mm AI. Or if you want a more budget-friendly option, you could just go with a white air cooler like NZXT's. Continuing on with the trend of white parts, we're gonna go with white RAM sticks from Corsair. These are the Vengeance RGB Pro sticks, DDR4, 3200 MHz. The graphics card is also a white one. This is cute and tiny, the ASUS Dual OC 3060. I just love how this card fits in my hand. It's gonna look so clean in this build. For storage, I'm gonna use a 2TB solid dime SSD. Like other parts in this build, it's highly customizable, so some people might not need 2TB. You can easily get a 500GB SSD. So I'll link some other SSDs in the description section below. I have the NZXT C1000. It's a 1000 watt 80+ gold power supply, which is totally unnecessary for all the parts we have here. I would actually recommend going with a 650 to 750 watt power supply, but this will allow for extra headroom, and I don't have a 750 watt power supply on hand with me right now, so might as well just use this. And like many of the other parts, I'll link some 750 watt power supply options in the description if you'd like to check them out. And before we get to building this PC, click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Let's go. All right, we are done building this PC. As you can see, it looks really clean. A couple things that I want to point out though. Let's talk a bit about the build process as well as a couple other recommendations that I have. Overall, building in this case was a breeze. I really like these small details that ASUS paid attention to when it comes to this case. For example, some of the cables are sleeved white. These side panels push out easily with just a button. The straps at the top are also really easy to take out. And you also get a lot of room for cable management. And a couple things I'd improve with this build. Let's first start off with the GPU. As you can tell, the graphics card is pretty tiny. And don't get me wrong, the performance with the 3060 and the Core i5-13600K, especially when it comes to a mid-range $1,500 PC build, delivers great performance. It's just that it's kind of small, and you might not care about aesthetics, but it does look a little bit odd. Something else I'd like to mention is that I didn't jam-pack this case with a bunch of fans. I only have 3 intake fans at the bottom and 2 exhaust fans at the top. Obviously, you can fit another exhaust fan at the back of the case, 3 more fans on this side, and then another 3 fans on the other compartment of the case. With that said, adding more fans would exceed the budget more than I've already exceeded it. And the last thing to point out is that I am using black power supply cables. There are power supplies that come with white cables. Alternatively, you can get custom sleeved cables for an even cleaner look. Of course, with all these additions, it'll make the build look more complete and more all white with less visible black, but that will cost more money. If you enjoyed seeing this build, please like and subscribe to support the channel, and thank you to ASUS for sponsoring this video.